Hey, good morning from Idaho. Alpine guy here. Well, this morning I'm going to go ahead and winterize the Alpine. We got some cooler weather coming in starting tomorrow, so got all the other projects done for the time being around the house, so I'll get back to the fifth wheel here and take care of the business on hand. What I use to winterize my Alpine is 3 gallons of Walmart special antifreeze. I have a bucket, and I have about a 6-foot piece of regular hose, and I also have about a 3-foot piece of 3/4 inch clear hose with a male garden hose fitting attached to it. I'll use this to connect to the water connection when I get ready to siphon the antifreeze up inside the fifth wheel. First thing that we want to do is bypass the water heater, and I've already done that and moved this to the bypass position. And if you notice, I put an arrow on mine years ago so this old man don't get confused. If it's downwards, I've got water going to the hot water heater, and if it's up, that's in bypass. Bypass means no water goes to the water heater, and that's what you want. This is an older Alpine with the upgraded 3-way Anderson brass valve. For the newer folks, your water panel is going to be different than mine, but the valves are similar and the concept will be similar. A couple of the first things you want to do if you have the standard RV water heater like I do is you want to drain the water heater, which I've already done that. Pull the anode out, drain the water out, rinsed it out, and put a little Teflon tape on it and reinstalled the anode. And I reinstall the anode even though there's not going to be any water in there. That way it keeps bugs and critters from getting up inside the water heater. If you've got the on-demand water heater, be it the Suburban IW60RL or the Girard, you'll have to look at your manuals and figure that out on your own. The next thing that I do is I drain the freshwater tank, and the tank is completely drained, so we position the valve horizontally, which shuts off the drain. That way no bugs and critters can crawl up inside over the winter time up into the freshwater tank. And yes, bugs can crawl through that little tiny 1/2-inch PEX line and valve if it's left open. And on my Alpine, I have 4 low point drains. You can see the hot water here with the red. You move that out of the way, and the cold water right here with the blue. We'll go ahead and gently lift these up and see if we get any water dripping out. And as you can see, we're getting just a little water coming out. So what I'm going to do now on mine, since it's an island, I also have 2 low point drains on the kitchen sink island. It's a lot easier to do for me with the steps up and the slides in. So what I'm going to do is crawl underneath and hopefully not catch my back on anything. And as you can see, I have 2 low point drains for my kitchen sink. We'll open those up. As you can see, in fact, there's water coming out. And so we'll let those drain, and we'll get out of the way before we get wet. I hope there won't be too much water coming out of there. Someone mentioned the other day that they have a kitchen sink on an island like me, but they didn't have any drains, low point drains for that, and I have no idea why Keystone did that. I like having these low point drains on the kitchen sink island. And once the water stops dripping out of that, it is pretty much there. We'll leave those open for just a minute, and we'll see if the old man can get out from underneath the fifth wheel. And of course the fifth wheel's closed up, but we're going to open that up and get things going here. And then my wife will be my helper today, and she's going to come help me. What we're going to do here in a minute, as soon as the wife gets a few things moved in. Oh, it's cold in the Alpine this morning. It's like 38 degrees in here. We'll start at the sink first, and we'll use compressed air, blow the hot and cold out on the sink, and then we'll go up and we will do the bathroom, and we will do the sink as well as the shower. And when we do the shower, I remove the nozzle and we blow the air out or water out into the sink, as we also do with the antifreeze. That way I don't have water back down in here, and I don't have pink antifreeze blowing all over the place. When we get that done, then we'll do the toilet, and you can see the toilet, it's been sitting here a couple of weeks, still has water in the seal, and that's what we want. That'll be replaced with RV antifreeze. And something that a lot of people forget, if you don't have a washer and a dryer, which I don't, but I do have the hookups, you still need to blow these out. And you still need to run some antifreeze through them. If you don't do this, you run the risk of cracking the PEX lines or the unions that are running up from behind the rear water panel, as well as busting both of these. So you need to drain these, and I blow them out with air. We hook a small short hose up, put a bucket in here, and then blow them out. And then when we run antifreeze through, we'll run till we get just a little bit of pink out of both these, and then I'll put these caps back on. There goes the boss lady up there putting a few things away, and then we'll get started using the compressed air, and we'll blow everything out. Use the house compressor. I could use my small pancake compressor that I have in the Alpine in the front section, but this is just as easy, so we'll go ahead and use this. And what I'm going to do is I dial up my pressure, and I set it at about 30 psi. And 30 psi, there's 25, is about 30 psi. And since I have the low point drains are still open at the water center, as well as the kitchen sink area, you can hear the air is coming out. I have the valve selected to city water, and instead of having water coming in, we have 30 psi of air pressure blowing in. What I'm going to do is we're going to close all of the low point drains. There's two that are closed, and we'll get the other two in just a minute. And you noticed when I closed these two that we actually are getting some coming out of the island low point drains, and we'll let that run for just a minute. And a lot of people are going to say, well, why don't you just use antifreeze and do it that way? Well, if you use antifreeze to purge all the water out and everything, you have to use the antifreeze to displace the water. So you're going to use 6, 7, 8 gallons of antifreeze if you do it that way. I use the air to displace all the water out of everything first, and then I put the antifreeze in, and usually 2 to 2.5 gallons is all that's needed. Okay, we're down to a drip now, so we'll go shut those island low point drains off. Okay, you can hear the air compressors running. All the low point drains are off, and now we're going to do the kitchen sink. Wife is going to start with the kitchen sink, and she jumped there when the air came out because it scared her. She's doing the hot side. Now we've switched it over to the cold side. Okay, we've removed the shower nozzle, and the wife's going to turn the shower on. And that was a nice geyser there. Okay, turn that off, turn the other one on just a little bit. Okay, turn that off and go back to the other one. Just a little bit when you crack it open. That's good. Now she's going to open up the sink. And see the air is pushing the water out. That's good. Do the other one. Open it up more. Good. Go back one more time on the cold. Good. I'm now pulling the sink aerator out as well, because if you don't and you run antifreeze through it, we have found that next spring that antifreeze tends to crystallize a little bit, and it will plug these screens up, and you will get diminished water. You'll get diminished water flow, so we don't want that. So now we're going to do the toilet gently when you press it through. And go ahead and press it all the way, and you can see that what little water was in there is out, and we're not getting any air or any water coming out of the toilet, so we've got that done. That's good. When I do the washer connection points, I use about a 6-foot RV hose that I have that I carry with us, and we'll use a bucket. And the wife is gonna hold the hose in the bucket for me. And I'll hold it down so it don't blow it up my face. Okay, so we have the hose properly positioned so that neither of us gets a bath. And we'll open up the valve slowly. And as you can see, there's all the water, and we'll still end up getting a bath. We'll crack it open just gently. Now you can understand why if you don't blow these out and run antifreeze to them, you're gonna have problems that you don't want. Hold the hose again, and we're gonna blow the hot side out. Try to crack this open gently so we don't, you dumbass. Okay, we're ready to do the other remaining connection for the washer, and we'll open that up slowly, and we'll see if we get any water come out of that. And as you can see, we do. We're not going to crack that open like we did last week. We still got a little bit of splash. Taken care of. We've blown everything out inside, and we'll one more time crack these two low point drains just to see if we get any water. And we got just a dribble, so we're satisfied there. I'm not going to bother crawling back underneath the island and opening those up. So that concludes blowing everything out with air. Now we'll take the air off, and we'll hook the siphon hose up, and we'll use the pink antifreeze, and I'll show you how we do that. Oh, one more thing I almost forgot. Getting in a hurry, if you have the outside shower rinse station like we do, then I'm going to hook the hose up here and blow these out also. A lot of people forget to do this, and if you don't blow this out, this is going to freeze and crack, and when you put water on next year, the back side of this is going to be all cracked, and you'll blow water all through the basement of the fifth wheel. And I've taken the nozzle off because we don't need that, and we'll crack open the valves here and see if we get any water out. I'll have to lay the phone down for just a second. These valves for the outside shower rinse station. We're down to a dribble now. It plays a nice tune. And we'll leave that hose hooked up just as well as I left the hose that you saw me using on the washer connections. I left that hooked up, and the bucket is still inside. And I'll explain that in a minute to why I did that. Got the hose disconnected, and we'll get the fitting disconnected and get everything hooked up, and I'll show you what that looks like. Use a nice right angle connection to my water system. I don't use one of them cheap Camcos. This is a nice 3/4 inch, and I also use a brass air valve. I don't use one of those cheap ones that you see that that Camco puts out. This one is all brass, and it's lasted for, I don't know, I've had this one for 20 years I think. And if you noticed, I have the antifreeze bottle sitting on a stool. I have the clear hose hooked up, and we're going to turn this over to the winterize position. And I have the clear hose put down, not quite all the way, because if I try to stuff this hose all the way down, it's going to overflow the bottle because of the displacement. And so now we're ready. I'll tell the wife to turn on the water pump and have her open up one of the kitchen faucets. The wife has the pump on, and it'll start drawing antifreeze here in a minute. We'll go back out and look at that. As you see, we're already drawing antifreeze, and we'll stuff that down inside. And we'll stop for a minute. A phone call, so we'll just verify that we have pink fluid out on both sides, and we do. And the bathroom sink on. And we're looking for a little pink fluid. That's all we need right there. And we'll open this up, just a little pink fluid. That's all we need. We'll do the shower stall. All we're looking for here is just a little bit of pink fluid coming out. And I'm doing this one-handed. And you can see the pink fluid is coming out. We'll crack that open just a little more. And now we'll open up the other side. Wife got temporarily interrupted with a quick phone call, and you notice we lost a prime because I was inside instead of being out here. So we'll put another bottle in place. The wife is going to open up the shower and we'll see if we can get the pump to pick up the prime again. Hopefully. And we picked the prime back up again. As you can see, we're drawing antifreeze. Okay, turn the shower off. Gonna do the toilet. And you can see we got a good prime there. And we've got a good prime back out on the bottle, so you can see the wife has put a little bit of antifreeze in the toilet bowl, so we're good there. Sink is done. Normally I would pour a little bit down in here to get water in the P-trap. My Alpine has P-traps. What we will do is come back to this with the jug of antifreeze, and we'll pour a little bit of antifreeze down this shower P-trap so that it gets just down the drain and not all over inside. Last thing we're going to do is the washer hookup connections. We still have the hose hooked up. The bucket is still here. And we'll get down here and do this. Okay, now I'm gently going to crack this open. And all we're looking for is just a little bit of pink antifreeze coming out. And hopefully we don't blow it all over the place and get a bath. Just hold it there for a minute. Just hold it. Okay, we're satisfied with that. We've swapped the hose to the other washer connection fitting, and we'll gently open that up slowly. And all we're looking for is just a little bit of antifreeze to come out without blowing stuff all over us. And there we go. We'll let that run just a little bit more, make sure we've got some good antifreeze. That's good. And we're all done with that. We've removed the garden hose, put our caps back on, so we're all done. We have good RV antifreeze coming out of all the fixtures, the toilet, and the washer and dryer hookup. And now we'll go outside and do the outside shower. If you notice, we have used 1 gallon, and here is the second gallon. And if you notice, we have about a half a gallon left, and we're going to open up the outside shower, and hopefully the hose doesn't blow all over the place and spray antifreeze all over me. We want to run a little antifreeze through that. You can see the pump is drawing fluid. And one more thing I like to do is I like to crack these low point drains open just one time to make sure that I've got antifreeze coming out. So we'll gently crack that one, and you can see pink antifreeze come out. And we'll crack the cold one, and you can see there's pink antifreeze there. I'm not going to crawl underneath the Alpine and get to 2 on the kitchen island because I know there's pink there, and I don't feel like taking a bath in antifreeze. So that concludes how to well, almost concludes. One final step. Again, we've used, I always buy 3 gallons. I don't know why, but we've used 1 full gallon, and we've got about a quarter of the gallon left. So we're back in the 5th wheel, and you've noticed I've removed the kitchen sink fixture from the hose. We'll just leave the hose hang there, and we'll shake this out. And what I've found is if I don't do this, and I leave that antifreeze in there. That antifreeze likes to crystal up a little bit inside, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but inside there's some very small holes right there, and what that does is it'll get plugged up with those crystals, and then when you go to use your island sink next year, you'll get diminished water flow. And you saw the wife run a little antifreeze down this side. She didn't move it over here, so they're both the same P-trap, but we'll go ahead and pour just a little bit of antifreeze down in here. Trying not to make too much of a mess, but I did. So we'll wipe up that antifreeze before it dries. Don't need to pour any antifreeze down this sink in the bathroom because we did both the shower as well as the sink fixtures here, so we know that P-trap is good and flushed. And what we will do is we'll pour a little bit of this remaining antifreeze down the shower drain, and try not to make too much of a mess. And what mess I do make, I'll wipe that up. And here we go, hopefully. We'll pour about a half cup to 3/4 of a cup, and then I'll wipe that antifreeze out. Come back to the toilet, and you notice that she's got a good amount in there. So what we're going to do is put the cap on this antifreeze. We have about yay much left. This is the 2nd gallon. And then what I will do through the winter months is once a month I always come out and open the 5th wheel up. I'll lift this toilet seat up and check and make sure that I've still got some antifreeze sitting in there. If I don't, or if it's gone down, I'll use the remainder of this antifreeze. And I like to keep a little in the toilet. It keeps that seal nice and lubricated so that you don't get odors and the toilet doesn't leak. And you notice she also ran some that went down inside the black tank. And so there's a little antifreeze down inside the black tank, plus both gray tanks, and just a little bit around each one of those gateway valves. They're not gateway valves, gate valves. You can see I did in fact wipe up that mess that I made. We have just a little pink laying around here. We'll wipe that up, and we'll come back out to the kitchen sink, and we're going to replace this faucet. This is the 2nd faucet that we put in this Alpine in the kitchen. This one we had to replace back in 2015, somewhere over in Iowa, when the original cheap RV style one busted. And the wife just doesn't like this one because it's not high enough. So Costco's got one we've been watching for a couple of months. It's normally $200 and it's on sale this week and next week for $149, and it'll come up a lot higher and have a nicer arc, and we'll come over to here. Plus I'm also going to take the stupid soap dispenser and completely remove it and put a little nickel plated cap in here and cover this over, because we don't use it and we don't need it, so it's just in the way. We'll wrap this up, and hope the video made sense. And as you can see, not quite 2 full gallons. The 3rd gallon, I always buy one. I don't know why I do. It's just a habit, and that way I got some around if I need it. Use that little hose. It's 3/4 inch clear, about 4 feet long, with a male end garden hose fitting attached with a radiator clamp, real high tech. And I use a 6-foot piece of hose that you saw me use inside, and this is what I actually hook up my regulator, water pressure regulator, and dual stage filter to the Alpine with. So this comes in handy to help me winterize the Alpine. So that's how we do it. And my cost on this was, well, let's see, 3 gallons of antifreeze was $3.23 a piece. So we'll call that $10 for the antifreeze. And we've had the plastic hose and stuff, and the fitting I think was, I don't know, $3 or $4. And the air adapter that I use, I already had that. So pretty simple operation. That's my cost. You saw how long it took us to do it. it would take, if we weren't videoing and everything else, we could have done this whole thing probably in 10 minutes or less. So that's it. That's how I do it. It might give you folks some ideas. And for those of you that are taking your Alpine to an RV place, or paying somebody to come out and winterize it, and you're paying them a couple of $100 or whatever it is they're getting, you can save that money and take your wife out for a nice meal and still have money to put diesel fuel in the truck if you do it my way. That's it from Idaho. Hope you enjoyed the silly video. There's hundreds of these videos out here, but told you I'd make one for the Alpine. There goes the air compressor. So without further ado, we'll see you all later.